Okay, good morning. I want to welcome everybody to the Governing Board regular meeting. Today is October 26, 2003, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we do have a quorum. We are missing one director. Director Vines is home ill, but we do have a quorum. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from the September 28th, 2023 general meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, they will stand as written. We have an opportunity today. We've got several of the people who are attending Torch with us. If you would raise your hands or stand up, let us know who you are. I'm going to go up to the other microphone for this. Okay. Torch is a special committee of the governing board that does great work throughout its Torch Academy in educating Sun City West owner members on how the community and the rec center works, as well as exposing residents to the availability of many services and opportunities within and without our community. Today we're going to honor three individuals, Terry Hammond, Barb Luzader, and Sue Kellen, all of whom have been an integral part of the organization for many years. Okay? They have molded the Torch Academy into what it is today and have passed the torch to others in the spring of this year to continue to serve. The Torch Academy program started in 2009. Wow. Barb Luzader joined the committee in 2009 and shortly thereafter provided valuable insight and contributions to the committee for 14 years. Sue Kellen has given 13 years of service to the academy and the community. And Terry Hammond, who left the Torch Committee to fill a seat on the governing board this year, was part of the committee for 9 years, including 6 years as the chairman. Okay? We owe a debt of gratitude to each one of these individuals for their immense efforts and commitment to the Torch Academy program to help increase awareness of the rec centers of Sun City West and how it works. Today, Terry, if you will come up here. Terry will receive the plaques for all three of the people. And I want to extend my personal thanks to Terry. All right, thank you. You want to say something? Okay. All right, there's another recognition too, and this one is a little different. It's from the Arizona Fish and Game. It's to the Recreation Centers of Sun City West, an appreciation for your unwavering support to law enforcement and the Arizona Game and Fish Department, Watercraft Enforcement Patrol Officers Course. Thank you for your support. For the use of your facilities to conduct the Officers Water Survival Course, your management and staff are always diligent in providing support and scheduling for the use of the Beardsley Pool facility. That was for 2023. So congratulations, Mr. General Manager. All right, moving into business. Moving into new business. The first order of business 4.01 is July, August, September, year-to-date 2023 financial reviews. CFO Cliff Swan.
Thank you, Director Hurley. Good morning, Governing Board and community. Go through the September year-to-date financial statements. Just a reminder before we get started, September is a pretty big month for us in terms of expense. We spend a lot of time and energy and resources on our golf courses to get them ready for the season. So, and generally speaking, the first 4 months of the year there's a lot of investment made on the expense side to set us up for our busy season. So with that said, keep that in mind as we go through these financials. That'll give you some more perspective on what's going on in terms of expense. Okay, so taking a look at September, if we look at September actual compared to budget, we are 23,000 favorable. You can see in September, pretty much right on budget. There was a little hiccup in the sports pavilion because we had an extended closure at the bowling alley that was unforeseen because of some additional projects that needed to be done in that renovation. I will say, though, that those additional projects, one of them which was a flooring project, was moved up on the schedule, so that'll allow us less of a closure in a future year. So that being said, Barry has made up some pretty good ground in this month, and that'll be reflected in the financials next month. Looking at the expense structure, 46,000 unfavorable. We've got some timing items in landscape maintenance, meaning, we had some expenses coming a little sooner than we had anticipated, and I foresee that coming back in the month of October. I do want to talk a little bit about utilities. Utilities are significantly ahead of last year, and I wanted to share some information about that and why that is. For the first 3 months of the year in our utilities, we had a 12% increase in usage. That was mainly due to, in terms of kilowatt hours, we had roughly 400,000 additional kilowatt hours over this point through the year versus last year. And then the rate also went up 9%. So our effective rate is about 13 cents per kilowatt hour, and previous year it was 12 cents. So APS is raising the rates and our usage is going up, so that's being reflected in our financials. So we'll see how the year continues to progress, and if you remember last winter we had a lot of rain and a lot of cooler weather, so we'll see if maybe we get some milder temperatures in the winter, which will help us maybe offset some of that difference year over year. Overall, for the month of September, 23,000 unfavorable at a $938,000 cash outflow. Again, keeping in mind that this is an investment in what we're going to experience over the next 6 months or so. Compared to prior year, 38,000 unfavorable to prior year for the month of September. Looking at year-to-date, right on budget, 8,000 favorable on the revenue side. And then on expenses, again, as you can see, utilities is, really sticking out like a sore thumb right now. And, obviously we've talked about that. Looking at the landscape maintenance and repairs and maintenance, again, there's some timing items that are going to offset in the upcoming months. 14,000 overall unfavorable year-to-date on the expense structure, for a total of 6,000 unfavorable on 2,137,000 cash outflow year-to-date. Compared to prior year, 245,000 unfavorable to prior year, most of which is budgeted. And some of the items that make that up are wages and benefits, again, budgeted. Utilities, we talked about that. And then there's a landscape and repairs and maintenance. Most of that's timing, and we should see that come back. Switching over to the capital related, for September compared to budget, APF fees, we're a little down in September. I'll show you we're up year to date, actually, but a little bit down in September. And the estimated reserve fund allocation, which is the money we set aside for our reserve fund, we're doing that this year. We're right on budget with that. And then looking at the investment income continues to be strong, about double prior year, which is good. And that helps hedge any realized or unrealized gains and losses. We did experience a $600,000 valuation change, unfavorable, in the month of September. That's a moving number. It's unrealized. but those valuation changes go in and out, and with a $30+ million portfolio, it's, that percentage change will appear to be large, but in the grand scope of things, it's not. And November 7th, we'll have Cap Trust here to go over our reserve fund performance through the first 3 calendar quarters of 2023. So come to that meeting if you want to see how our portfolio is performing. That said, compared to prior year, APF fees for the month were a little down compared to prior year. Reserve fund allocation compared to prior year, a little bit down at $15,000 unfavorable. And then if we take a look at those realized gains and losses, although we had a $600,000 valuation change, we still performed much better compared to prior year by $628,000 in our reserve fund performance, for a total of $608,000 favorable for the month of September compared to prior year. Year to date, APF fees, like I said, looking good, $63,000 favorable compared to prior year, compared to budget, year to date. And then estimated reserve fund allocation, right on budget with that number, as you can see. And then investment incomes continue to perform strongly, $125,000 through the first 3 months of the year. We're going to see that continue throughout the year, which is great, because that's real money that gets reinvested into the reserve fund. Year to date, on the valuation change, $765,000 unfavorable in the reserve fund, and for a total of $581,000 unfavorable compared to budget. You'll see we don't budget anything for realized and unrealized gains and losses, because those are things that just come and go as the market progresses throughout the year, and it's not something that we would budget. Compared to prior year, again, APF fees, with the APF fee increase, we've got $181,000 favorable, goes right into the reserve fund. That's great. Looking at the income from investments, $120,000 favorable compared to prior year. We'll continue to see that trend. And then realized gains and losses, favorable by $570,000, performing much better. And then looking at the total, $652,000 favorable compared to prior year in the capital section. Talked about these APFs. We're down 5 APFs, but the increased APF fee, even though we're down in total APF transactions, the increased APF fee is generating that $181,000 additional reserve fund income, which is great. And then reserve fund and investment income is performing much better, which is good as well. Overall, revenues over under expenses for the September year to date is almost $2.4 million under expenses, and versus $1.8 million prior year, $1.8 million budgeted, and for a $587,000 unfavorable. And then compared to prior year, $407,000 favorable. Switching to capital related, in terms of the capital budget and capital spend for the repair and replacement and new items that we budgeted for this fiscal year, roughly $5.5 million. We have a projected savings of $350,000 on that $5.5 million budget. Most of that pertains to paving projects that we were able to save on stabilization. So that's generating that savings. And you can look on here, this report shows all the highlighted yellow items are actually completed projects for the year. These are all the projects for the year through and the status of those through September. And you can see where the savings lie. looking at our budgeted allowances, we have 400,000 for allowances. These are for things that are unbudgeted, but we know from time to time we need funds for things that pop up that we don't foresee. In that 400,000 allocation, we've issued 184,000 in POs. So through September, we have an unspent allowance of roughly 216,000. The largest item in there was a well pump that went out at Pebblebrook, and that was 122,000. You can see what the other allowance items were on this list. So what's the impact on the fully funded balance? We look at that FFB percent. Policy says it has to be 40, at least 40. And keeping in mind that the reserve fund pays for not only the repair and replacement of the assets we have here that are 5 years, $5,000 at least in value with 5 years of useful life. Policy states, again, 40%. We budgeted the FFB percent to be 50%. We finished last year at 50%, and we budgeted 49%, and we're right on budget with all the adjustments in the reserve fund valuation and the investment account as well in terms of the investments and then the favorable and unfavorable items we've discussed. So we're right on budget. That concludes my presentation.
Okay. Any of the directors have questions for Cliff? Director Stanenbaum?
Thank you, Mr. Hurley. On the reserve funds, where preservation of capital is our #1 priority,
Yes.
and I assume Cap Trust knows that.
Okay.
We've lost another 765,000 on top of the 3 million we've lost before.
We haven't lost that.
Well, it's unrealized, but it's not there, right?
Yes.
So the capital has gone down.
The reserve fund has a valuation change, yes, of 700,000. Well, when you factor in the investment income, it's not 700,000, but there is a negative valuation change in total, yeah.
Now, is the investment income put into the account?
It is.
So if the investment income is in there because it's got a plus, and then if the value is down there, we lost the investment income and it's still down $700,000.
We haven't lost anything. It's a valuation change.
Well, but preservation of capital, it's a loss.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Any other questions? Director Rhodes?
Actually, thank you. I want to amplify a comment that you had made, Cliff, regarding Cap Trust, and to Harry's concerns as well. Cap Trust will be here at the Budget and Finance Committee on the 7th of November. They are going to demonstrate, they're going to display our investments. One of the things that the Budget and Finance Committee is charged with doing after the presentation is that the entire committee will look at the investment strategy, compare it to our policy. And our policy is very prescriptive on what we'll permit Cap Trust to invest in. We have an investment portfolio that's 90-10. Now, you all know what 90-10 means. That means 10% equities, 90% bond. Fixed, excuse me. Thank you, fixed. And that is conservative, and it's the closest thing to asset preservation is putting it in a can and bury it in your backyard. We're talking financial investments, and the Budget and Finance Committee will do that. We will compare what they're doing relative to what our policy is, and if they're within the parameters of our policy, we will indicate accordingly in our findings, and we'll report that to the governing board. That's FY12, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah. So it would be worth your time to read FI 12. What you can find that on board docs under policies, financial, FI 12, investment of funds. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Cliff.
You're welcome.
All right, moving right along. CLA Independent 2023 Audit Report, Director Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley. At the last Budget and Finance Committee meeting on the 24th, Clark, Lawson, and Allen, the independent accounting firm, presented their findings to us. Their credentials are impeccable. They have a company that offers an arsenal of services, and this is one of them. They look at our accounting and our financial statements to ensure that we have complied with appropriate accounting policies, acceptable accounting, that our statements are clear, concise, and correct, and that we have appropriately accounted for all of our funds. We got a very clean bill of health from them. I'm not going to go into any of the particulars. I think that we would probably need Gene Diedrich, the person that actually conducted the review, to explain that for you. But when her final words to us is that we are in a solid financial, from an accounting perspective, solid financial accounting position. And they had no recommendations for us, no significant recommendations.
Okay, I just want to add that having an outside audit every year is part of the fiduciary responsibility that the board has assigned by our bylaws. So,
Thank you. I do have.
Would you read the motion?
According to per recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee, I move that the governing board adopt the fiscal year FY 22-23 Clifton, Larson, and Allen audit report per the RCSCW, Recreation Centers of Sun City West policy, CO3 subsection 1.2.5.
Second, K seconds. Any questions or comments from the rest of the board? Christine?
Just to add to what Director Rhodes, Treasurer Rhodes added, for those of you who were not able to attend the Budget and Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, the presentation was really excellent and very clear. It's not extremely technical, as I recall. It's available on YouTube for anyone who may have missed it. I strongly encourage everybody who is listening here today to take a few minutes and actually hear an independent outside audit firm's view of how we are collectively handling our fiduciary responsibilities. It was excellent.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, before we take a vote, are there any comments from the audience on this issue? Would you go up to the microphone and sign in, please, your rec number and your name?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bruce Lees, 135422. I reviewed the documents that are posted there, and there was an indication that I believe they had one finding through the audit that there was an invoice that was presented in the amount of $600 and some odd thousand. I'm a little unclear as this, was it lost in the system, unable to be paid? Was it reconciled? How was the oversight allowed to occur if there's a normal accounting process? Could you give me a little bit of rundown? Thank you.
Cliff, would you answer that, please?
Sure can. Yeah, so we have this extremely large irrigation project going at Grandview, which is now complete. And that project spanned between 2 fiscal years. And We have that project earmarked in something called CIP, construction in process, on the balance sheet. And as we receive invoices, completed performance payments, those sorts of things, what we do is we post that, we receive that in the system, and then there's a whole separate system for the accounts payable portion of that. But there's an impact on the books when we do those two processes in accounting. Well, we received the invoice on, I believe it was June 27th. We processed the payable on July 5th. So there was a timing difference between when we received the invoice and we processed the payment, and that created a balance sheet problem. There was a good question you had there, which is, did we know this existed and did we reconcile it? And we had reconciled it. We knew that that there was a timing difference. In terms of our accounting procedures, we identified that, we called that out on the balance sheet, and knew that in July it would correct itself. However, CLA's recommendation was that we did a journal entry in fiscal year 23 to account for it, rather than waiting for that to happen. And it created a book variance for us, not in the income statement, but on the balance sheet. And so we corrected that, and we put a procedure in for next year so that we can review those items in the receiving and make sure that the timing of those hit exactly, especially at year end when it's most critical. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions, Dick, would you read the motion again, please, and we'll take a vote.
For the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee, I move that the governing board adopt the FY 22-23 Clifton Larson Allen Audit Report per the Recreation Centers of Sun City West Policy number CO3 subsection 1.2.5.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take a voice vote. A yes vote is to accept it. A no vote is to deny it. Terry?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Kay?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
All right, it passes. Moving right along. Dick, it's still yours. It's a financial update on policy FIO 9.
Thank you. That is a policy that we reviewed in the Budget and Finance Committee. Mr. Miller reviewed that, and it was done in collaboration with the entire committee. We found no substantive changes. We did a thorough analysis last year, and then when we reviewed it again this year, we saw absolutely no reason for change. And so our recommendation by the committee is no change.
All right, there's no action needed on that. So we're going to move right ahead to working group report, budgetary index presentation. Director Novello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. This is, as we discussed in the last meeting, I mentioned in Dick's absence, or on Dick's behalf, I should say, he was here, that we were working on this matter. So I'll give you a very quick rundown of the findings of the working committee, who is who, and so forth. We have the full presentation in our in everybody's packets as well. So just to give you a quick rundown of some of the key things we found. Again, Dick gave us a charge when he formed this working group, I should say, to basically take a deeper dive and to do some research into the use of economic indicators and indices in the budget process. And so he asked me to pull together and facilitate the group, to lead the group, if you will. But in accordance with our governing board policies, I was not a member, if you will, a full voting member of this working group, but rather we had the contributions of Mr. Ray Davies and Mr. Gary Bosak, who actually did the deep dive and the deep analysis and the outcomes thereof. So I served as an advisor, so did our CFO, Cliff Swan, so did Terry West. So we basically took a look at everything that was in front of us. The long and the short, there's a presentation for you, and again, you can go into an excellent presentation that Mr. Bosak, Mr. Davies gave at the Budget and Finance Committee for details. But the long and the short, after looking at all of the various indices, is that the budgetary process right now is informed, if you will, by the use of those indices. I don't believe we're going to go through the full presentation today. Am I correct? So just to give you the long and the short, everything is informed by these indices to actually allow or to modify our policies so that an index would drive our budgetary assumptions, that it would drive and dictate dues increases or decreases or what have you. The working group decided that that is not at all what we want to do. We really want to encourage the continued use of indices by our staff to continue to inform those budgetary assumptions, both for capital and for expense, to continue to operate in that way, that we all look very closely at those indices and continue to operate as we are. One of the other key things to note in terms of the overall findings are that this question actually came up in 2015 as a part of 3 referendum items that were put to all owner members at the time. So granted, it was 8 years ago, but many of our residents have been here for that period of time. So this very question went before the entire population at that time. The question being, do we want to use a specific index to drive those outcomes? It was overwhelmingly voted down at that time as well for maybe some of the same reasons, but nonetheless, took a fresh look at it, looked at many of the current trends and decided again to continue to utilize this and encouraged the Budget and Finance Committee and the Governing Board as a whole to continue to question each other on each of these items. I believe that the words of the working group were that the process, it invokes some level of discomfort, if you will, a lot of questioning, a lot of debate, but that's healthy. And they encouraged us as a governing board and all of our committees to continue to do that, to look at everything, to question everything, and considered it a necessary struggle, and went so far as to quote the very deep words of the Rolling Stones, and said, "You can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need." So it's not so much. I know, these days I think we could all use a little smile, and I really appreciate the working group for that. But seriously speaking, it's a difference here that sometimes you really do need to question, and it's not always a pretty thing. Sometimes it's a struggle and there's a debate. But if we all walk away from the debate feeling like, if any group walks away feeling they got everything they wanted, then something's wrong. So we do need to really push back on one another and struggle, and compromise means it's not always pretty, but we will get what we need in the end. So hopefully I made an accurate summary. Encourage everybody to not only look at the materials, but again, to go back to that very informative presentation that was led by Gary Bosak and Ray Davies. Dick, did I miss any? I'm sorry, Chairman.
You did not. But what I would like to say is that Christine and Gary and Ray Davies and Cliff and Terry were very, very serious with this. They had a series of public meetings that you all had the opportunity to attend. They looked at this from every possible angle, and I think they did an absolutely wonderful job on research. We haven't formally presented this to the governing board yet. We do have a recommendation. The minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee haven't been completed yet, that we did on the 24th, but that will be resident in the minutes, that particular recommendation. So that I take my hat off to the level of effort and the transparency that went into this working group. And I only have one comment, Christine. My understanding is you were going to sing the at that. Thank you very much.
So we will have a recommendation at another meeting?
It will, the recommendation we were going to bring to the workshop, and then, because there'll be a formal presentation, and we were going to do a formal presentation with a recommendation. We don't have that recommendation ready right now.
All right, fine, then there's no action needed.
No, all
No,
this
just an
was to be an
apologies.
update, to tell you what we've done and where we're planning, where we and the Budget and Finance Committee are planning to go with this.
Okay, thank you. 4.05, RR&Ps review. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. We have some comments
Easy to
from,
overlook. Gary Bosak, 102585. As much as it galls me to have to say this, I had a major reawakening and I had a flaw in the presentation. The vote that was referenced in the presentation wasn't in 2015. 2 days ago, I was cleaning out some files and I ran across the file from the election then. It was actually 2012.
so noted.
Slap my face. I'm glad I had a chance to be public. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, moving right along. Director Leary.
So yes, this is an informational update. The Chartered Clubs Committee is continuing to go through the RR&P revisions. We have, in our last meeting on Tuesday of this week, we covered 2 articles. Article 3, which is about membership and guests, and Article 4 is about a number of topics: chartered club activity, special event, tournaments, leagues, reciprocity, and accommodations. The discussion on all of these was quite good. We went through each item in the RR&Ps, the proposed RR&Ps, line by line. Had some good discussion. The Article 3 there was good discussion, but it was not as perhaps active as you might have thought. However, Article 4 was one that a lot of clubs had concerns about, especially some of the sporting clubs. The gist of it is that this section especially, but also the entire RR&Ps revision policy, was guided by the report that came from the Tournaments, Leagues, and Special Events Working Group. There was a group that found a lot of inconsistencies, inequities, lack of following of rules, that kind of thing. So that guided how the RR&Ps were revised by the committee. We answered all of the questions in Article 4, which is where much of the discussion was focused on. The biggest item that was discussed is the fact that there are some sports clubs that hold events that are not within the confines of the chartered club system. So the chartered club system is based upon the simple premise that because the Sun City West facilities are paid for by owner members, tenants, and associate members, that only cardholders can be members of clubs. And therefore, teams from clubs can only consist of Sun City West cardholders. Now, that puts a strain on some of the clubs who want to have tournaments involving people from other parts of the country or even other parts of the world, which are essentially the public. They want to open up the facilities to the public for those types of events. So the gist of it is that in order to do those kinds of things, and there's one club in particular has been doing it for 35 years. They have been working outside the bounds, out of compliance with the chartered club system. So rather than try to force fit the chartered club system to those few clubs that want to invite the public, the recommendation of the committee was that we recognize the limitation of the chartered club committee, chartered clubs, the RR&Ps, to those types of organizations and recommended that if they wish to continue to allow the public to come in, that they work directly with the general manager and the recreation manager to do that. So they are no longer considered chartered club activities. So it's a way to move the problem to the appropriate place rather than trying to force fit a round peg into a square hole. And that seemed to resonate with those clubs. They seem to be happy that they have an alternative and that they're not being cut off from what they wanted to do. So that was a very positive outcome from our meeting on Tuesday.
Okay, so do you have a motion for this?
No, this is just an informational update.
Okay, all right. Do we have any questions, comments from the directors? Okay, moving on to 4.06. Charter Club Space Utilization Requirements Working Group Recommendation Number 1.
So there was the Space Utilization Requirements Working Group was working earlier this year. Their charter was to look at how do we go about measuring space utilization here in Sun City West. It was not an effort to decide which club gets which space or which club gets how much space, nor was it an effort to point out any faults or deficiencies in the ways that we've been doing space utilization measurement. So it was a very high-level look at it. The working group came up with a final report, which was delivered at June, in the end of June. It was actually presented to the Properties Committee and to the Chartered Clubs Committee earlier this year. The Properties Committee agreed to move the recommendations forward in September. The Chartered Clubs Committee took an extra month to look at it and decided to move it forward at that time. So my first motion here is, per the recommendation of the Chartered Clubs Committee, I move that the governing board approve the general manager's pursuit of selected final space utilization report options / recommendations.
All right, do we have a second? Second. Okay, seconds it. All right, Jack, I think you pretty adequately described what's going on. So do we have any questions or comments from the directors?
I have a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
I've watched the Chartered Clubs meetings for a long time. And I would have to say that I think the level of effort that has gone into this, the time, the investment, the critical review and analysis is actually beyond reproach. So this is an informed recommendation, and I would very much support it. So
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Director Williams?
Thank you. I'd like to say what a pleasure it was to combine two committees working together. We had two representatives from the Properties Committee that were part of this effort that started mid-April, met every Thursday for at least 2 hours until the 1st of July. So it may look a little like War and Peace when you look at the hard copy, but it had a lot of effort put into it, and I think it was time very well spent and brought to light a lot of things that are going to be critical to the ongoing progress with Sun City West. So thanks for including us.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Since we're going to vote on this, I'm going to open it up to comments from the audience. If you have a comment, please come up to the podium over here, give your name and rec number, and sign in, please.
Bruce Lees, 135422. I would like to commend all the members that participated in putting this report together. It was extremely comprehensive. However, my biggest take on that was the fact is that the discussions occurred that our current IT systems are somewhat not keeping up with the time, and our current club tracks will need some major redevelopment or investment to achieve some of the goals that we're looking to implement the space utilization process as far as capturing information and such. Is this something that possibly the Budget and Finance Committee is looking at incorporating budget items to expand the investment in the IT realm to get us up to speed so we're not trying to play catch up, and possibly, make this process more streamlined?
I'll ask Director Leary to answer you.
It's a great question. The report specifically states and provides options and recommendations. What we are proposing here is that the board approve the general manager to pursue exactly what you're asking for. Where and what should we be doing, and at some point, how much will that cost? Right now, we don't know what that will cost. We have, swags of what that might be, high, low, and medium, but that's not enough to make a budgetary request at this point.
My major concern was...
Sir, if you're going to, you need to go to the microphone, please, because we're recording this and people can't hear you.
My major concern was the fact is that we come to the realization as a community that this is an investment that we need to make, that possibly we can make incremental investments versus a one-time large expenditure that would have a major impact on the budget.
Exactly, and that's part of what the options are, describe that.
Director Rhodes, you have a comment?
I do. I want to add to that. From a budget and finance perspective, we're keenly aware of that. One thing I'd say about our IT system, I think we need to be very clear. It's not that it was poorly designed. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that it's been built for something other than we need today. So it's time to look at that. And, we've been struggling. It's no secret. If you watch the Budget and Finance Committee, you know that we struggled for 3 hours to end the Budget and Finance Committee talking about transaction fees. And every time we'd talk about it, it was kind of like a whack-a-mole. We'd talk about this and then something else would pop up. So this is a complicated issue. It's not simple. And it's one that, again, the Budget and Finance Committee will come out with a recommendation from our part, from our perspective, but we understand that this does take the analysis of our IT structure, what we have, functionality, and capabilities. This is a major issue.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, Dennis Horvath, 127115. Good day to the governing board. Director Leary, I watched your charter club.
Sir, the questions come to the chair.
Oh, okay, sorry, didn't
That's okay.
understand
That's
that.
fine.
Okay, to the chair. I watched the charter club's meeting online. I have 3 questions and statements. The first is, when is a guest not a guest? It was very confusing. Shouldn't all guests pay all the time unless they're engaged in reciprocity? Isn't this kind of opening our association to the outside?
Those are your 3 questions?
No.
Oh,
Question
okay.
number 2.
Oh,
Thank you. Keep me on track here.
yes, sir.
Question number 2, please define open sports. That's not anything I even have an idea what is. And sir, some of the past decisions and amendments make it appear that there is a prejudice against sports, that clubs versus the sports, the clubs are going to win all the time. This is very annoying to many of us that are in sports clubs. We, sometimes like a explanation of why does it seem like, we're the redheaded stepchildren of the association. And 3, with the given that all players that want to play and all players are qualified to play and are playing, please, I'd like a definition for the term reciprocal play and commingled play.
That it?
That's it.
Okay. First, there's no bias against the sports team. All of our clubs are important to us. But I'm going to ask Director Larry to answer some of your other questions, which you may have to repeat because there's so many.
Yeah, so what was your first question? Let's start there.
Yeah, that's why I was going to go one at a time, sir. When is a guest not a guest? This is more a point of clarification, like I'm sitting there going, I didn't get that. Shouldn't a guest pay all the time unless they're engaged in reciprocity? And if they're just standing around watching, then they would be a visitor, not a guest, right?
So let me answer that and,
Okay.
and make sure I answer your question.
Yeah.
So there are two conditions under which we have guests. There is guests within the chartered club system, and then there are guests that come and use our amenities. So the pools, the mini golf, pickleball courts, tennis courts, and so on.
Right.
So when a guest is is a guest of a club member and they go to a club activity, with the exception of a ticketed event, then the rules of the bylaws of that chartered club guide how guests are treated.
Oh, okay.
So that's one type of guest.
So would they pay, sir?
So, and great lead in. The other type of guest is that guest which does not participate in a club activity, but participates in an amenity, such as the pools. And if you wanted to reserve, say, a pickleball court and have your family come over and play pickleball, you can do that. In those cases, that's a guest covered by policy FA08, and they have to pay the $6 fee if they're over whatever the age is, or $5, whatever it is, the 4 and 6. So they pay that money to use those amenities. Those are non-club activities. Now, FA08 specifically says the guest credit cannot be used to participate in club activities. And the reason for that is if we allowed people to come in and say, I want to go in and turn a bowl in the wood shop. So that person may or may not be qualified to do that. And we certainly don't want to open them up to potential danger, nor ourselves to liabilities.
Right.
Now, reciprocity, part of the deal with reciprocity is that you have a reciprocal agreement. That guest fee, that daily credit, is waived under the terms of a reciprocal agreement.
Okay, perfect, thanks. Like I said, that was extremely hard to follow.
When you have to keep the things separate, chartered clubs and amenities.
Gotcha. Okay, and I'll accept the explanation on question 2. That's kind of like, it's annoying to many people, and so it seems that way. It's what we perceive. Or question 3.
Was that the comment of the question 2 was about the
Yes.
perceived bias against the sports clubs?
Yes.
That's
Correct.
President Hurley is exactly right. There is no bias against the sports clubs.
Okay.
What has happened over the years as sports have evolved and have grown, they have pushed the boundaries of what the chartered club system can do.
Right.
So and it's been frustrating for everybody.
Yeah.
Because of that. So the Chartered Clubs Committee recognizes that the chartered club system cannot fit that round peg into that square hole. So rather than trying to create some massive set of RR&Ps with all kinds of exceptions and all of that, let's just move it to where it belongs. And because there are just a few clubs that demand that type of attention. And so let's accommodate them.
Okay. So, and I am a member of one of those clubs. I think you know softball for sure.
Sir, in the spirit of moving the meeting along, if you have additional things, would you come up afterwards and
Oh,
and
sure,
talk
I'd be
to
glad to.
Taylor? Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
All right, Jack, would you read your motion again, and then we'll vote?
Okay, motion one, per recommendations of the Chartered Clubs Committee, I move that the governing board approve the general manager's pursuit of selected final space utilization report options / recommendations.
Okay, thank you. We're going to do a voice vote. We're going to start with Christine. A yes vote is to approve the recommendation. A no vote is to decline it.
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Kay?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along. I think you have the next one too, Jack.
Yes, I do. The next one. Part of the same discussion with the Space Utilization Requirements Working Group, because of the complexity and intricate details and interactions of the findings, the board wanted to make sure that as we move forward, that we recognize that we're probably going to need help on this, and the recommendation is, the motion is, per the recommendation of the, I think this should be of the Chartered Clubs Committee, I move that the governing board direct the general manager to contract an organization with substantial expertise in complex space utilization systems to implement the selected final space utilization report options / recommendations.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, seconds. All right, any questions or comments on this, Christine?
Just to be clearer, I was going to say perfectly clear, but we'll just say clearer. By implement the solutions, it would be taking these first steps to understand the scope, the complexity, and the financials. Is that what we mean by implement here?
Yeah, exactly. It's going through the options, and when the decision is made, when an option or options are selected, that we get counsel and advice and guidance, including cost, obviously, to before we take off and do something like this.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. And it would seem then that this is the motion is merely to direct the operations team to go forward and to start looking at options. And this is not the final word. We will hear more about this, your committee and all the committees.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Alan?
I had a similar question to what Christine had, and I'm wondering if potentially the way this is worded, it doesn't actually say what we're trying to do, because it does make specific reference to implement selected final space utilization options recommendations. But it sounds like what we're actually asking for is to allow the general manager to hire an organization with expertise to help evaluate and make a recommendation on a specific solution, as opposed to implementing a solution.
Jack, you want to answer that?
Expanding it, as you say, Alan, would increase the scope of what this recommendation is. This focuses just on implementation. If we were to change the motion to say something like select and or implement a final solution, something to that effect. Would that cover what you're looking for?
I think so, because my concern is I don't want to have somebody down the road think that what we voted on is the implementation of a final solution. I think what we're saying here is we want to have the people with the necessary expertise to help arrive at that final solution so that we can then do the implementation. And there's another approval. I understand there'd be another approval coming once that final recommendation is made.
So Alan, do you have an amendment to this motion?
Well, I would like to, it's possible that the general manager may look at all of the options and decide to take one of the options, which is to do nothing. I don't know that we need advice to do that.
Director Rhodes.
I kind of share Alan's question
I
here.
don't disagree, but
Well, I guess the part that I'm concerned about is I don't want to hire somebody to implement this. I want to, if anything, I would say, give me choices and give me options, because I want our own people to make that decision, ultimate decision on how we're going to do this. And we'll do that through options and recommendations. And maybe I'm missing the.
So do you have an amendment to the motion?
No, I really don't. I'm just I'm working through it in my mind, and I'm trying to make it stack up, and I can't. Analyze and suggest.
Director Stannebaum.
Would it make sense, instead of to contract an organization, to change that word to contact an organization? Or engage, not contract.
So that would read, per recommendation of the Charter Club Committee, I move that the governing board direct the general manager to engage an organization with substantial expertise in complex space utilization systems to implement the final report.
Mr. Chair, may I suggest an alternative?
Yes, go ahead.
I would change implement to analyze and suggest a selected final space utilization option or recommendation, as opposed to implement.
Okay. Any other comments? Terry, did you have one?
Can we make it a little simpler, just say recommend?
At which point?
Implement. Change the word implement to recommend.
Okay.
implies that you have to analyze in order to recommend.
Analyze and
They gotta
recommend.
do that. That's part of their recommendation. That's assumed in the recommendation.
All right. Jack, do you have all this down?
I'll try. Okay, so the revised motion is, per the recommendation of the Chartered Clubs Committee, I move that the governing board direct the general manager to engage an organization with substantial expertise in complex space utilization systems to analyze and recommend selected final space utilization report options and recommendations.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so the original motion is amended to the motion that Jack just read.
Yes.
All right. We'll take a voice vote. And before we vote, any comments from the audience on this? Okay, we'll take a voice vote. A yes is to support the recommendation, no is to deny it. Terry?
Yes.
Alan?
Thank you for the revision, yes.
Yes on the amended revision.
Kay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Harry?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, that passes. We will send these two recommendations to the general manager and ask him for a timeline on when we might start and get some feedback on this. Timely. Okay. Let's see. Jack, you have another one? No, we just did that one, right?
Yeah, we're in 408.
408, okay. Jack, 408.
Okay, continuing the Jack Leary show. This recommendation came out of the Chartered Clubs Committee meeting that took place on October 10th. I understand that there may have been some other discussions happening in the interim. So I will read the recommendation as it stood as of October 10th. Per the recommendation of the Chartered Clubs Committee, I recommend that the Properties and Budget and Finance Committees review the request to replace lawn bowling benches in the current fiscal year 2022-2023 budget at their November meetings.
Okay, any questions or comments on this?
I'll
Well,
second it.
This is not actually a motion, this is just a recommendation, this doesn't require a
Right.
vote.
Right.
But I will ask for consensus that we move this request to the Budget, Finance, and Properties Committee.
Small comment. I believe that we're in fiscal year 23-24. It's an editorial change to the recommendation. Am I
Correct.
correct? I see. Thank you very much. It is 22-23. I
We're
stand
talking about the
corrected.
current fiscal year.
Yeah, I stand corrected.
All right,
Apologies.
so do we have consensus to move this back to the two committees?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. The current fiscal year is 2023-24. Yes. Let's get our dates right. Okay, moving right along. Update on policies FI01 through FA01 through FA05. Director Williams.
Properties Committee has begun their major task of why we exist as a standing committee for the benefit of the group. The bylaws require that Properties Committee do a very thorough walkthrough and inspection of all of our recreation centers every year, looking for maintenance things, possible new projects, and a general overview of anything, even behind the scenes, that most of you don't even know exist. So as a part of that, I have a work group that has gone through FA 1 through 5. FA 1 and 2 will be returning to our next Properties Committee for approval. FA 3, 4, and 5, no recommendations of any changes. Also, at the November meeting, we will be reviewing the remainder of the ones responsible to us. But for this time, just minor verbiage changes in FA 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board on that? All right. 4.010 is motion to revise policy FA08. Because of some of the earlier comments, we're going to postpone that until another meeting. So we move to 4.11, update golf policy reviews G01 through G12. Director Standenbein.
At our last meeting, I had sent to all the committee members to bring their questions forward, and it was unanimous, no changes in any of the policies.
Good. No action needed for that. So we'll move right into the working group update. Private cart numbering system.
Okay, we had formed a working group to look at golf numbering systems, and the committee was formed. They come back with their comments, recommendation, and then it was a unanimous vote not to go forward with any of that, and the committee was dissolved.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments on Harry's report? All right, since Director Vines is absent today, we're going to postpone 413, 414, and 415, and 416, because that's hers too. So we have the legislature passed a law the other day about street parking, and if we could have Community Property Manager James Riley come up and explain to us where we are with that. No, we're going to postpone it.
Thank you, President Hurley, members of the governing board. Unfortunately, House Bill 2298 does not address planned communities that contain HOAs within inside of them. So currently what we're doing is we're looking for a legal opinion on that. And as soon as we receive, they come to a consensus, if you will, I'll be happy to report. But right now, we're just kind of waiting for them.
Right. All right. We had one legal opinion, and we wanted a second and third opinion too.
That is correct,
Right.
yes, because it is the actual House bill is quite vague.
Right. Okay. So we'll expect a report some other time.
As soon as possible. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, I just want to remind everybody that on November 1st, Karen will have packets ready for people that would like to run for the board. And with all the things that are going on in the community, I certainly hope several people step up so that the community will have a selection of people to vote for. Okay? Reports, filing, audited 2023, 22-23 financial report, Director Dick Rhodes.
Thank you. This is really more of a housekeeping chore. Every month that a financial report's ready, the Budget and Finance Committee will hear it from the CFO or whoever is there to present, Cliff, CFO. We do need to do some catch-up that we need to do our filings for July through September. We have reviewed all of these. It's not as if we don't know what's there. As a matter of fact, you just saw September. So the July through September financials have been reviewed and have been accepted by the Budget and Finance Committee, and they have been filed.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? You have another one? The July, August, September financials?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Yep. We've already done that.
Just did that.
We've already done this. We've already. This is a little confusing, but this is the formal review or the formal acceptance of the audit report by CLA. The FY 22-23 CLA audit report has been reviewed, and it's been accepted by the Budget and Finance Committee and adopted by the Governing Board, and it will be filed.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to move into director comments now. I'm going to start on this end. Christine, do you have any comments?
Just a real quick reminder for anybody who's listening that we have some upcoming formal opportunities for you guys to come and talk to the board. Vice President Vines is out sick, but she's been leading this up in terms of scheduling. But there are a couple of events coming up. Music on the Green on November 8th. November 10th, we've got the Veterans Show. November 13th, we have some time at the Pool and Fitness area, and November 15th, at the Kuntz Courtyard Performer Spotlight. So check the Rec Center News for the specifics, but I know we're all looking forward to having the opportunity to chat with you all and answer some questions and just get to put faces and names together. That's
Okay.
my only comment. Thanks.
Thank you. Harry? All right. Jack, anything else you want to add today?
Yes, I would like to thank the working group for the requirements, space utilization requirements report. They did a heck of a job. It's a very complex topic, and having the two committees work together worked out very well. So thank you for that, and kudos to them.
Okay, thank you. Kay?
As a member of that group, thank you, and you're welcome. It was a labor of love. I can't lie about that part, but we did put a lot of effort into it, and the end result was worth it. Just as a reminder, the Properties Committee will be doing its last inspection of the rec centers this Tuesday. Unfortunately for my committee, I'm an early bird. We start at 6:45 a.m., and with luck, we're done by 9:30. So they're glad this is the last week of having to get up so early, too. Thank you.
All right. Director Rhodes, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I do. I was really pleased to see the members of Torch. Would you stand up again so I can kind of see who you are? So this is, thank you. This is a group of people that have indicated interest in learning more about their community and how it works. And they're not just standing on the sidelines and snarking. They're the ones that are actually wanting to be engaged. So what I would say to you is reach out to us. Reach out to the governing board. There's multiple times that we would like to have the opinion of other people. We try to make our meetings transparent. Christine went through great efforts with the working group to have public meetings, and very few people, if any, showed up for it. I don't think that's either an indictment on, hey, you're doing it okay, and I'm not interested in it, or whatever. I'm not sure. But I do look to the Torch, the people that are in Torch, I've been in Torch, I know my wife has been in Torch, and there's any number of people, but reach out to us. We do want to hear from you. We want to hear your opinion as well. So to that, I take my hat off to you, and congratulations for being in Torch.
Alan?
The advantage if we started this way is I could have just said what you said, because I agree with you, and I wanted to do the same. I wanted to acknowledge the folks in Torch. Torch is an organization or an academy that is near and dear to my heart, because like many of you, I joined it to learn more about the community, and it was the launching pad of my interest in other things, including being here. And I especially want to also acknowledge not just the attendees, but the names that we recognized earlier and the committee members who were on there, and in some cases since the inception of the program. That's a phenomenal tribute to their commitment to this community as well. And for those of you who are thinking about becoming involved in the community, Torch is a great place to begin that process. And I hope I see some of you at the museum Saturday. The other thing that I would like to do is similar to what Jack did. I'm very impressed at the work of the committees that we put together. And we had two really nice reports today. We had the one on indexing. And as I read through that in preparation for the meeting, I was impressed at the thoughtfulness and the effort they put in and the arrival at the conclusions that they reached. It's a clear tribute to our community that we have so many fine people who want to be involved in continuing the legacy of what makes Sun City West great. And my hat goes off to all of them. Thank you.
All right, Terry?
These two kind of stole all my thunder on Torch. But I really appreciate the honor, and Pat Canfield is sitting in the back, and she's one of the original members of this and got me involved in Torch. So thanks, Pat. No other comments.
Okay. Before I open this up to resident comments, I do want to make a comment because I have received several emails this week about what happened at the workshop. And what happened at the workshop was a few people got up and spoke against the recall, okay? And I allowed them additional time. And we've had people from that side say that they can't do that because of policy L13. So I just want to explain what's going on. When we look at the order of governance, that the precedence for us, it goes federal law, state law, county law, and then our things. Arizona law is very specific that planned community association members have the right to comment on association issues in open meetings if they were respectful and they don't use profanity, okay? Our meetings are operated under Robert's Rules of Order. If a speaker asks for more time, the presiding officer has the option to grant it to him. Okay. So policy L13 was written to add changes that the House bill, and I believe it was 2158, added to the Arizona Revised Statutes 33-1808. And the policy begins with, this policy is designed to encourage participation in the Recreation Centers of Sun City West, Inc., association-specific political activities, consistent with 33-10808, Section K. That was effective on September 24th, 2022. All right. In policy L13, Section 1.4 says that the rec center needs to be notified of the time and place when activities of these association-specific activities are going to take place. This is not intended to restrict the assembly of members. All this is so that we can notify the facility managers that something is going to happen in their area so that we don't have a bunch of people saying, hey, there's a mob gathered out here and all that kind of stuff. So that's my explanation of L13, and we've had legal counsel on this. And one of the things that the lawyer told us was, we don't have a recall until the petitions are filed with the association. So I will now open it up to member comments. If you want to make a comment, come on up. Give us your name, rec number, sign in, please.
Yes, Dennis Horvath, rec card number 127115. So I'm starting where I left off. The other one was, given that all players that want to play and are qualified to play and are playing, can you define the terms reciprocal play and commingle play and tell me their difference?
I'll ask Jack to reply to that, please.
Reciprocal play is a formal agreement between Sun City West and the other age-restricted community that basically says, and I'm going to summarize it here, that there's like for like in terms of facilities usage, not only in terms of the facilities type, but how it gets used, that there are equal number of games or contests or whatever at each location, and also that there are the equal number of teams, so that Sun City West couldn't say, we're going to bring 8 teams over to your facility while you only have 2 teams. So we have to balance it. It's basically a like for like. And the reciprocal agreement is in place because not every age-restricted community wants Sun City West people over there. That's been part of the problem that one of the clubs has experienced, in that the other communities are not signing our reciprocal agreements. That's because they don't want us. They don't open up their facilities like Sun City West does for reciprocal play. So that's reciprocal. Commingling is taking teams, taking individuals from each community and putting them onto a single team. The guiding policy for Sun City West is that because Sun City West facilities are paid for by Sun City West cardholders, chartered clubs can only have Sun City West cardholders as club members. Therefore, teams of those Sun City West clubs can only consist of Sun City West cardholders. So it's really straightforward. For those sports clubs or other clubs that want to do commingling, you do it outside of the chartered clubs system.
Okay, thank you. And that's why I said when all players that want to play are playing, and actually like softball, and I'll use that because I'm a member of that. And many of us have tried to explain this, but we are a round softball in a square hole. We can't really leave the charter clubs because we have a softball field there. So that doesn't fit us either. But the commingling is actually also reciprocity at the same time.
No, it is not. They are
Because
two separate concepts.
we went over and played at Sun City, the same amount that they came over and played here.
That's reciprocity.
That's reciprocity. The only thing we did, and I hate the word commingle, it never should have ever come up because it's more intermixed play. Where in a reciprocity situation, then we also intermixed the players. And that was all, but everyone got to play in Sun City West.
Well, what has happened is that over a period of time, number of years or even decades, and due to lack of following the rules that guide this organization, they were not enforced, and what has happened in the past doesn't make it right now. We have rules and we have them in place for a reason.
Okay, and I agree with that. I'm a rules guy, but on the other hand, I also like to think I'm a common sense guy. And when, like I said, we go back and forth between the cities, and then all we do is the same number of shoes are actually on the field. Who fills them is really irrelevant, because in a reciprocity situation, those boots would still be in the same place, just all on one side and all on the other side. Because of reciprocity in sports, I guarantee you that causes the old high school mentality. It's North 100 and Central against, South 100 and Central. And so that's what we want to stay away from and still enjoy our neighbors. My time's up, sorry.
Thank you.
Bet.
Gary Bosack, 102-585. I just want to acknowledge the board. I think your obvious grasp of the issues, your explanations today were excellent. Your collegiality, your obvious respect for each other is heartwarming. And the people from Torch today, you saw the way a governing board meeting should work. They did a great job covering a very aggressive agenda in a very reasonable amount of time, and you should be congratulated.
Thank you.
Good morning, Susan Ambler, 129848, Mr. President, Directors, and Mr. Schwinn. I have signed up for Torch. I have a bit of a family crisis going on, and so I was going to miss one Thursday, and so I decided to push it to the next time, and I'm hoping that I'm still going to be able to do that. I do travel back to Washington quite a bit. I am a policy wonk. I am a legislation and policy person. It's what I did for 20 plus years, spent a ton of time in Washington, D.C. in my own state legislature. I write, I read, and I just love to make sure that policies, governing documents are being followed. That's why I hang out here. In lieu of Torch, I am trying to attend every single meeting that I possibly can.
Good.
I'm okay when things shake up a little bit. I will tell you, there's more interest in my neighborhood in the last 7 years today than there has been for 7 years. And they somehow appreciate me right now being a policy person. So like I said, I'm okay with shaking up a little bit. I hope I'm not a snarky person. I don't like hearing about the snarkiness and whatnot. Certainly some of the Facebook crap is snarky. But I just want to say, follow the rules, follow the governing documents, be transparent, and I will be your buddy. If I have a question, I will definitely come to you. I will also say I have requested to be on a committee. I'm assuming there's no openings right now because I haven't gotten an email to just say, I think maybe you saw okay. So I'm going to be around. You're not going to be able to get rid of me. But I would like to be able to help even though I'm not official. Sure. Thank you.
We love it when people get involved. Thank you very much.
Do I sign in again? This is a different subject.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Mr. President, may I say something while he's...
Sure, go ahead.
So I actually want to comment on your comments about the committees. The committees will last for the year. And at the end of the beginning of the next year, you may have a new committee chairperson, and many times will replace people on the committee. So from a committee selection perspective, it will probably be happening whenever we appoint the new chairperson of that committee. And that really won't be until June, maybe, something like that. And we will get a list of people from, Karen maintains that for us. I know that I had 35 people that she sent, and we look for people that, are you really interested in this? And then we send an email out, and about half respond. And then about half of that will actually be willing to be interviewed. So, but anyway, I wanted to put some clarity to that for you, okay?
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, President. Couple of comments here. It's come to my understanding that a lot of clubs are being closed also, like the Porcelain Painters Club, stuff like that. Is it possible that we could combine those clubs instead of losing their charter? Is there the stamps and the coins? Why can't we do that? Why can't we combine those?
Okay.
The other,
I was going to say, we're going to have our recreation manager come down and answer that question, but if you have another one while she's coming down, go ahead.
Yeah, this is tongue in cheek too, and that is, there is a recommendation that as we're writing the RR&Ps, you know, it'd be nice if maybe a little less legalese is used and a little bit more laymanese is used, so we don't have a lot of, you know, misunderstandings, not being able to understand what's read or written. If that's somehow possible, because remember, the generation behind us is a mess, so they won't be able to read anything. So we got to back.
There's
up
quite a
just-
few of our generation that's a mess too.
Well, that's probably right too. So.
Okay, thank you. Casey, would you like to answer his questions, please?
I can. I will say I was literally behind him, too. Thank you, President and Directors. As far as the porcelain painters question you had, that I worked with that club back in December 2021 and what was going on with their club. Their numbers, I really didn't want to go to this part, but they were one of the ones padding their roster. So there's a lot of people that are not taking into consideration what clubs are padding, and I don't want to put that out there. So I'm going to tell the truth, though, that transparent word. Porcelain painters, brought them in December 2021, had the conversation with them, still kind of coming out of that COVID world as well. We changed our newcomers to Club Expos in fall 2022. They participated. There was also some other issues going on, which I found out after the closure. I brought them in July, I believe, this year. And in April, they had 17 members on their roster, okay? 50 is the magic number for craft clubs, 50. Out of those 17, we did the participation report for them, which is kind of a big deal right now in the RR&Ps, and only 5 of those, they have dedicated space. So there's a difference between dedicated space and shared space. More opportunity. Only 5 were utilizing that for half the year. So another club came to me, concerned, nothing to do with that room whatsoever, concerned about the size of their room, and they need more space. They're growing. We found that's absolutely true. Myself, Russ, Carl went in, looked at their room. There is nothing we can do to help them modify anything. They needed expansion. So this kind of fell into their laps, and they're using it as a classroom. I asked the president back in 21 about merging that club, okay? Porcelain is a very clean craft. They cannot merge with ceramics, and they cannot merge with clay. They cannot have dust because of the type of paint they use. So it was asked. Does that answer all your questions?
Yes.
Does that help everybody, maybe?
Yes.
At
Okay.
least it's been considered.
Thank you, Casey.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you, Governing Board. My name is Gwen Rhodes, 125791. I wanted to make a couple of comments. The question was asked about commingling. I know there was a club here. It's the Bridge Club, Kiva Bridge, and the bulk of their money coming in each week, 5 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, was coming in from people in Grand and Portobello and Sun City, and they wanted to keep going. So they changed, and they are no longer a chartered club. They rent space from the facilities. Every single day, they rent space. So perhaps the people that are playing baseball, that want to play baseball with others, they could hire the attorney, go through the process of figuring out, do they want to be a limited liability corporation and rent space? And then secondly, would the rec center be willing to rent space to them? We have a beautiful facility here. But IRS regs for 501c7 clubs clearly state your money, only 30% can come from outside your club, not the community, your club. Right. And only 15% of that can come for use of your facilities. So You know, they were meeting 5 days a week. They couldn't do that under IRS regs. So to say these clubs are being closed by the community or by the Chartered Club Committee, I'll use another one. We went to the play last night. Stardust Theater, Theater West Group was a 501c7. Under the rules I just stated, they could not have a play because all of us are coming in that are not members and paying to go. They worked with Casey, and they are now a C3 club. So to say across the board that our community, our board, our Chartered Club Committee is closing clubs is nonsense. Nonsense. So just, out there and listen for the truth. Ms. Ambler had a question. I'm going to tell you, in 2021, when I saw a current governing board member who had not been elected president of the board ask for a recall of the board to have a recall of the current standing president and vice president, I got involved. I didn't sign what I thought was a silly, what's the term, when they were trying to get the signatures. But once I watched that board officer who was literally toxic up there, I thought, I need to get involved. I need to pay attention. So I started watching governing board meetings, properties, chartered clubs, budget and finance. I went to Torch. I was a treasurer of a club. I got involved. So you're right. This does get people involved. So as ugly as it is, people are paying attention. And if people will take the time to hear both sides, they'll have a lot more information before they choose whether to sign a petition.
Okay, thank you, Gwen.
Yeah, go Diamondbacks.
Go.
Hi, Nick Turner, 131829. Just some comments on club numbers. I'm speaking personally, but I have some of this information because I am a member of the Chartered Clubs Committee. I'm a member of a bridge club that had, and we had fewer than 75 members. The recreation centres worked with us to merge with another bridge club, which has more than 75 members. We're still playing in the same room at the same time with the same membership. I know that there's now a club called the Card Players of Sun City West. That was a merger of 5 clubs into one club. So when you start looking at the headline number of clubs that is reduced, it's accurate in terms of the numbers of chartered clubs. It's not accurate in terms of the activities that those clubs undertake. In effect, the number of chartered clubs and the activities is way, way higher. You could add 5 in just from mergers that I know about. You could add another 2 back in for new organisations, new clubs which have started under the wing of an existing club. So there weren't enough people to form a chartered club. Another club with a similar activity has taken them under their wing. Cornhole and horseshoes is one that springs to mind. I believe there's now a 6th card club in the Card Players, which is a group of people that have come together. I do know of 2 clubs that have closed that Casey worked very hard with to try and find alternatives in terms of mergers and in terms of slight movement of time and location. And those clubs chose to close. They were not forced to close, they chose to close rather than merge or change their time and date of play. And I think that kind of information needs to be more widely disseminated around the community, because there is no move to shut down clubs to make life easier for the administration. There is a move to help and support and expand the clubs that we have. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good job.
Good afternoon. I'm Lynn Kellis, 129120. Again, I just want to reiterate, and I probably sound like a broken record, but I want you to know how much I appreciate and how nice it is to watch a functioning governing board. The change that has been made from like 2 years ago to today is phenomenal. You're not only transparent, you're well-spoken, you're respectful. And it's so different than what it was. I'm sorry all this other noise is going on in the background. Those are clearly people who don't understand what you all do. And you do a great job of it, and I thank you for that. Also, I think one thing that is really overlooked, along with the governing board, is our recreational center. Bill and his team that he's got in the rec center are a phenomenal team. They're great people. We're all human. There are times we might misstate things or have issues. Everybody does. But I'm so impressed with what all of you do and how you run our community. And I thank you. I applaud you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other comments? Okay, if not,
I have a question.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Where's Tom Johnson to sell his tickets? Tom Jones to sell his tickets?
Uh-oh, call the posse. Okay, our next governing board workshop meeting is November 3rd, 9 o'clock here in the lecture hall. Our next regular meeting is November 16th because of the holidays, also here at the rec center. I just want to state that I'm going to have office hours on the 30th. If you will call Karen and set up an appointment, I would appreciate it. You can reach her at 623-544-6115, or you can email me at tim.hurley, Hurley, at suncitywest.com. Spell out Sun City West, please. All right, and with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 10:41. Thank you very much.